before he became the fastest man alive, before the scarlet lightning tore across the skyline of Central City, there was only a boy named Barry Allen, and all he wanted was justice. Barry's story begins not with speed, but with tragedy. Born to Henry and Nora Allen, Barry grew up in a modest home, his world bathed in the comfort of love and laughter. His mother's warmth and his father's wisdom shaped him, but one stormy night shattered everything. A strange bolt of yellow lightning danced through their home, and in an instant, Nora Allen lay dead, and Barry's father stood accused. The world called it a freak accident. The courts called it murder. Barry knew it was something else, something unnatural, something wrong. While Henry Allen was sent to prison for a crime he didn't commit, young Barry devoted himself to science, driven by a single mission: to uncover the truth. Years passed, and Barry Allen became a brilliant forensic scientist for the Central City Police Department. Known for his kindness, clumsiness, and an overwhelming sense of hope, he buried his trauma behind a smile and a lab coat. But beneath that smile was a restless energy, a feeling that destiny was still racing toward him. Then came the storm. One night, while working late in his lab, lightning struck. It wasn't just any lightning, it was something cosmic, something alive. It exploded through the window, striking Barry and sending him crashing into shelves of unknown chemicals. He should have died, but instead, something impossible happened. Barry woke from a coma 9 months later. At first, it was small things: a strange vibration in his fingers, a heartbeat that pulsed like thunder. Then the world began to slow around him. Objects froze mid-air, voices dragged like echoes underwater. Barry Allen was no longer ordinary. He was connected to something ancient, something called the Speed Force. As Barry tested his new abilities, he discovered he could move faster than sound, run across water, vibrate through walls, and even heal rapidly. He became the impossible. But with great power came greater questions. What was the Speed Force? Why had it chosen him? With the help of his close friend Iris West and the brilliant mind of Dr. Harrison Wells at STAR Labs, Barry began to understand his purpose. The lightning hadn't just given him powers, it had given him a chance to protect those who couldn't protect themselves, a chance to find out the truth about his mother's murder, a chance to rewrite destiny. But Barry wasn't alone. In the shadows, another speedster emerged, clad in yellow and red, twisted by hatred and mystery. The Reverse Flash began to haunt Barry's every step. The man in the yellow suit knew Barry. He taunted him, he tested him, and most chillingly, he had been there the night Nora Allen died. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was a war across time. Barry crafted his suit scarlet and gold, a symbol of hope and motion. He became the Flash, protector of Central City, and beacon of light in an increasingly dark world. But the more he ran, the more the shadows chased him. The Speed Force wasn't just a gift, it was a door. And behind that door were countless other threats, other speedsters, and timelines waiting to collapse. Yet Barry ran on, because running wasn't just his power, it was his burden, his choice, his destiny. And though the path ahead was filled with danger, heartbreak, and sacrifice, the Flash had already made one promise: he would never stop running. When Barry Allen first put on the crimson suit, he thought the hardest part would be fighting criminals. He was wrong. Being the Flash wasn't just about outrunning bullets or vibrating through walls, it was about shouldering the weight of time itself. And time, as Barry would learn, is a cruel teacher. After the defeat of the Mist and Captain Cold's first public appearance, Central City began to see its hero as more than a myth. But for Barry, each victory only unraveled more questions. Where did his powers truly come from? Why had the lightning chosen him? And what role did the mysterious Speed Force play in his destiny? The answers came in fragments, visions during his highest speed sprints, voices echoing in static, and shadows flickering at the edge of light. And then came Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash clad in yellow, vibrating at frequencies that distorted his face and voice. Thawne wasn't just another villain. He was a speedster from the future, twisted by obsession and hate, who claimed to know Barry's fate better than Barry himself. He didn't want to defeat the Flash, he wanted to destroy him from within. Their first confrontation was catastrophic. Thawne revealed a horrifying truth. He was the one who murdered Barry's mother, not a burglar, not a random tragedy. It had always been him. He had traveled back in time to shatter Barry's childhood, all to ensure the creation of his greatest rival. This revelation nearly broke Barry. Everything he believed his purpose, his pain, his pursuit of justice, been manipulated by a man from the future. He stood on the edge of abandoning the mantle of the Flash altogether. But it was in those darkest moments that his team, Cisco Ramon, Caitlin Snow, Joe West, and later Harrison Wells, or at least a version of him, helped him find clarity. Barry realized something profound. Being the Flash wasn't about vengeance, it was about hope. He couldn't undo the past, but he could protect the future, and so began his deeper connection with the Speed Force. He learned to phase through solid matter, to generate sonic booms, and even to create speed clones. But more importantly, he began to understand the emotional weight of time travel. When he attempted to go back and save his mother, he was stopped by his future self. The moment was heartbreaking. Two versions of Barry Allen, standing across time, and one making the ultimate sacrifice not to rewrite history, but to preserve the fragile balance of reality. From that day on, Barry bore the burden of not saving the ones he loved. He ran not to change the past, but to protect what remained. But the challenges kept escalating. Villains like Zooman, another speedster from an alternate Earth, hungry for pure chaos, forced Barry to go beyond his limits. And each time he leveled up his speed, he also invited greater danger. The multiverse was no longer theory, it was reality, and every ripple Barry made could echo through countless worlds. It was during these crises that Barry began to meet others like him. Not just Wally West, the impulsive Kid Flash, or Jesse Quick from Earth 2, but versions of himself. Broken, corrupted, hopeful, wise. Some who had made different choices, some who didn't survive. Through it all, one lesson remained. Being the Flash meant living with consequences. There were moments of light, his deepening bond with Iris, the woman who had always anchored him. Her love reminded him of who he was, beneath the lightning. And yet, even that love was tested by time. Alternate timelines, erasures, resets. Barry's life became a kaleidoscope of what-ifs and near misses. But he ran on, always forward, because every second counted. The Speed Force began to call to him more directly. Sometimes it manifested as a storm, other times as visions of lost loved ones. It wasn't just a power source, it was sentient, a cosmic force of motion and balance. And Barry, it seemed, had been chosen not by accident, but by design. And so, as new threats emerged, Savitar, the self-proclaimed god of speed, who turned out to be a future tormented version of Barry himself, the Flash had to confront the most painful truth, that the line between hero and villain, between saving and destroying, is often a matter of seconds. By the end of this chapter in his life, Barry Allen was no longer just the fastest man alive. He was a guardian of time, a protector of realities, a man who had given up everything for a chance to run towards something better. And as the red streak vanished into the night, the world watched in awe, knowing that whenever hope faltered, the Flash would return. The faster you run, the harder it is to slow down. For Barry Allen, that wasn't just physics, it was prophecy. Every time he tapped into the Speed Force, he unlocked more power and unleashed new consequences. After surviving battles with Zoom and Savitar, both twisted reflections of himself, Barry began to understand a painful truth. The greatest enemy the Flash would ever face wasn't someone out there, it was himself. Still, he pressed on, racing into the unknown. But then came Flashpoint. One choice, 1 second. That's all it took for Barry to break the universe. He ran back in time just once more to stop his mother's murder, and for a fleeting moment, he had everything he ever wanted. His parents were alive, the world seemed at peace, but reality had shifted in unforgiving ways. Bruce Wayne was dead, his father, now the Batman. Cyborg led the Justice League, and the world teetered on the edge of war between Atlantis and the Messira. Barry had created a world built on grief, chaos, and imbalance. When he realized what he'd done, he was forced to make the hardest decision of his life, to let his mother die again. With trembling hands and a shattered heart, he restored the timeline, but not perfectly. The damage had been done, a scar across reality, and with it came new threats. One of them was the mysterious Black Flusher Grim, undead speedster, the embodiment of death within the Speed Force. It chased those who disrupted the balance, and now it was hunting Barry. Another was Godspeed, a former friend turned vengeful force, determined to monopolize speed itself. As timelines fractured and merged, Barry began to see visions, crisis points, flashes of events that hadn't yet occurred, worlds that were ending, heroes falling. He wasn't just the Flash of Central City anymore. He had become a temporal anchor, and so he was summoned to the Council of Speedsters, a convergence of beings across the multiverse who shared the Speed Force. Jay Garrick, the original Flash; Max Mercury, the Zen master of speed; Bart Allen, the impulsive grandson from the future. Together, they guided Barry through the deeper truths of his power. They taught him that speed was more than motion. It was memory. It was legacy. He trained, pushing himself beyond even his previous limits, learning how to phase others through time, to lend speed, to manipulate temporal inertia. But with great knowledge came an even greater threat: the negative speed force, created by Thon's hatred. It was the antithesis of Barry's light, corrupting, decaying, feeding on pain, and it began to infect him. For a time, Barry lost control. His suit darkened, his emotions spiraled. The line between hero and anti-hero blurred. Even his loved ones feared him. But at his lowest, it was Iris always, Iris who pulled him back. Not with a weapon, not with science, with love, with memory, with truth. He realized then that the Speed Force was not just a cosmic energy, it was alive. It had chosen him, yes, but it also tested him. Every trial, every paradox, every loss was a step toward something greater. And that moment came with the arrival of the Anti-Monitor. The crisis on Infinite Earths had begun. Worlds collapsed, time shattered. The multiverse trembled as antimatter waves erased reality after reality. Barry received the call not just from Earth 1, but from the Monitor himself. It was time. In a final act of sacrifice, Barry raced into the heart of the antimatter cannon, knowing he wouldn't return. Running faster than ever before, breaking every rule of time and space, he created a counter-vibration, a death spiral that destroyed the weapon, but consumed him. Or so it seemed. For in the Speed Force, time is not linear. Barry Allen became a myth, lost but not gone, trapped in a corridor of lightning and memory, watching, waiting, guiding. He was the ghost in every storm, the whisper before every thunderclap. And across worlds, across ages, legends began to speak of the Flash, who outran death itself. Time is a river, but for Barry Allen, it was a storm, a cyclone of memory, motion, and meaning. When he vanished into the heart of the antimatter cannon during the crisis, the world mourned him as a fallen hero. But Barry wasn't dead. Not exactly. He had become one with the Speed Force. Trapped in its endless corridors, Barry lived countless lives in an instant. Visions of alternate realities, broken timelines, shattered Earths, all unfolding around him in a spectral blur. He became both observer and participant, learning secrets even the speedsters before him had never known. He saw how fragile time was, and how easily it could collapse. He saw a multiverse born, die, and be reborn again. He watched as others carried on his mantle Wally West, his protege, now the Flash of Earth; Bart Allen, a spark of joy in chaos. Even Jesse Quick and other speedsters across timelines held the line. But something darker loomed on the horizon, a threat not of speed or strength, but of entropy, the Death Flash. Not a person, but a cosmic inevitability, a collapse of motion, a force that devoured timelines by stealing their momentums, lowering them until they withered into stillness. Barry, still adrift in the Speed Force, realized this entity was growing stronger with every paradox, every rupture in time, and its next target was the prime Earth. To escape, Barry had to perform the impossible, outrun the Speed Force itself, push beyond its horizon, break the cycle. With sheer will, he manifested his form once more, emerging like lightning reborn. But time had passed, worlds had changed. Earth was now part of a single universe, the result of crisis, and Barry was a legend returned. His comeback wasn't greeted with trumpets, it was met with confusion, awe, and fear, because Barry wasn't just fast anymore, he was fundamentally altered. He could vibrate through dimensions, communicate across time, even glimpse the threads of fate. But with power came burden. He knew every action he took would ripple across reality, and the Death Flash had followed. It attacked not as a figure but as a decay. Heroes lost speed, events reversed, history frayed. It consumed time like a parasite. Barry led the charge. To stop it, gathering speedsters across existence, Wally, Bart, Jay, Max, even impure entities like Zoom, the Speed Force Coalition. Their final stand was not a battle, it was a race. Through time, through possibility, across the infinite tapestry of what was, is, and could be. They ran through the fall of Krypton, the birth of Darkseid, the collapse of Earth 3. They raced across Elseworlds, injustice realms, and even the future of Commandy. Every step was a stitch in the fabric of existence, and at the finish line, Barry stood alone. He knew the only way to seal the death flash was to contain it within himself. Once again, Barry Allen sacrificed everything. He became the prism through which all time flowed in eternal runner, keeping the river of motion alive. But this time, it wasn't exile. It was guardianship. From within the Speed Force, Barry became something more than a hero. He became the pulse of reality. Every storm, every spark, every footstep of every speedster carried an echo of him. In rare moments he reappears, a blur in battle, a bolt of red in the corner of the eye, a whisper of run. And so the legend endures. Barry Allen, the man who outran fate, rewrote history, died for the world, and came back as its heartbeat. He is not just the fastest man alive, he is the Flash Eternal.